proposal. With us tonight is Kent Koptic.
Koptiuk.
How do you say that, Kent?
Koptiuk.
Koptiuk. With Nestle. And I've asked him to come with us tonight and discuss this project. This is a project that I was working on at the Water Management District for the last couple of years with Alan Cherry to rehabilitate some of the drainage wells in our communities. Each year the district applies for funding from DEP for springs related projects, and we would put in a list of projects and try to get funding for it. And this would be our third year for putting in for that. And this year we are fortunate to have Nestle as a partner with us. And the Water Management District has had to change a little bit over the years when it viewed recharge wells or drainage wells. And I remember a time when we tried to close them off to keep surface water and groundwater from interacting. We always felt like you had plenty of groundwater, and so we would separate those. And as you know, drainage wells are mostly put in low areas to help alleviate flooding. Live Oak has over 52 drainage wells in downtown Live Oak. That's really what keeps Live Oak from flooding. And you basically drill a casing down into the earth, through the clay, down into the limestone aquifer, and water can simply just run down into that casing and down into the aquifer, a lot of times 40, 50, 60 feet down. And like I said, that's how Live Oak maintains it to be dry, is because of those drainage wells. But over the years, you could see that you didn't want to put surface water directly into your drinking water sources because there was no filtration on it. It went straight in. But as demands on the aquifers have increased, they have revisited these drainage wells and looking at them as a tool to help alleviate flooding, but also as a tool to recharge the aquifer. There are 5 or 6 drainage wells here around Madison, and what this proposal is to go in and evaluate those wells, look at their conditions that are in now. Some are probably not taking water, but some are still taking water today, I know of, and evaluate those and look at the part of what Nestle is helping with is the upfront cost and up to $250,000 of investigative work of looking at the water quality that is going into these wells, and then also help to design a filtration system that can clean the water before it goes into the aquifer. I have a sketch to kind of show you how one of these might work. Like I said, most of them now are just a steel pipe. They range anywhere from 6 inches in diameter. Some over in Lake City are 16 inches in diameter. But most of them in this area were anywhere between 6 and 10 inches.
And there's no filtration system?
No, it's just, you might have a grate on top of the structure just to keep limbs and debris and turtles from going down in it. But there's really no filtration on them.
None right now, but we're talking about doing the wood having.
Yes. And so normally you would go to a low spot in the pond or beside there, and you would drill a hole to the right there. You can see the schematic of the drainage well, and sometimes you might encase them in a little concrete enclosure or just bricks, and then they put a grate over the top of it, and the water would just simply run down into the well. But what this system was, and this is just a representative sketch of something that you would put in. A lot of times you'll have control mechanisms to control the water elevations. You might have valves that you can shut it off. But to the right-hand side there, you see a concrete manhole, and you normally put that in up on some higher land. You don't put it down in the bottom, so you can always access it with equipment. You drill the well and you place that box. And then out in the edge of the pond, not out in the center, because you really, most of these have some kind of wetland component to it too. You don't want to dry the whole pond up, but out in the edge of the pond, in the floodplain area, you would come in and you would build basically a filtration system. You would use sand, gravel, some use bio media, for instance, wood chips if you want to remove some of the nitrates from the water. And then you would have a pipe down underneath there that would collect that water. And basically what you're doing is mimicking the natural filtration of the earth. That's how we recharge the aquifer now. Out in Lee, it just goes straight through the sand down into the aquifer. But in these particular areas, you've got this big, thick clay layer that it can't get through. So this helps filter the water. There's also a lot of times you will place other best management practices upstream to help with filtration. You'll place sediment basins upstream to catch the sediment. A lot of the pollutants are attached to the sediment itself. You pull the sediment out. A project that I was involved with year before last was getting a grant for Columbia County to rehab one of the wells over in near Home Depot in downtown Lake City. And so they were using also a portion of a wetland treatment. They were going in ahead of it, planting wetland grasses and letting the water go through that wetland as part of their best management practices to clean the water before it enters the well. But that's where Nestle's expertise comes in, and of course, you know, their one of their priorities is high water quality, and as well as it's important for Madison County. They employ, you know, over 100, 180, 190 people at that place, and they have to have, you know, good quality water, and so that's an important aspect, and they're offering the use of their consulting engineers to help us in the design of this system. Two of the, while we have about 5 listed, 2 of the main sites would be on county and city-owned property. One would be in the West Farm region. It would be located on the county property. And so we would try to take that water and recharge the aquifer before it ever pops over onto the storage area on the Hodnett property. The other spot would probably be over here, what used to be called the Burnett Low. It's just east of the country club. That land is owned by the city. As part of our stormwater projects over there, they still own that land, so it would probably be located on that. Also, there is one on the country club, and we've talked to them about the possibility of installing the filtration on theirs as well. But this is right now, it's just basically in the proposal phase of trying to get funding from DEP. The Water Management District will be considering all these projects at their meeting in May. So we wanted to bring it before you. This is the same project as we have done in the past, except for we've got Nestle's partnership involved in this one.
Did the previous projects that we submitted have the filtration aspect?
Yes.
So, Ronnie, if you were looking at the pond, like by the way you've drawn it out, would you see anything different about that pond? It would just be a pond and it would have a sand bottom, and that's all you would see if you're walking around?
You wouldn't see it, no, because where you would put that filtration bed is up in the area that overflows. You know, you've got the main deep part of the pond, and then you normally have an area when it starts to flow out into that area.
Oh, okay.
That's when it would start to go down through that filtration.
Because that's what you were just saying, if you put it in the lowest part of the pond, it'd drain the whole pond.
You drain the whole pond, yeah. So you really put this out into the floodplain portion of the pond.
Gotcha.
And the box, normally you have an aluminum lid on the box. It's a concrete structure. It's all that grade. You know, sometimes we might put a post around it to keep somebody from backing over it, but you really don't see anything out there.
Gotcha.
And this time you're only gonna do the 3 and not the one on the college property or the...
Well, we went ahead and listed them as possible projects, but a lot of it will come down to the funding, and when we really do the design work on what it's going to take to get the water quality there, that will also determine, you know, how far can you really go with the projects. And of course, the ones that we want to work on are the ones that we have flooding issues, but also because the land is owned by the city and the county, and those are ones we don't have to work on agreements and other things. So that's why we put those as the higher priority.
What about the one on Little Cat? Where is that one located?
That one is on Roy Floyd's property. I spoke to Mr. Floyd back before he passed away, and that one, we had gotten a lot of complaints a couple years ago up there off of Little Cat. What's the airline pilot? Joe? And a lot of the people that live right around there and even over into Flowers Road, were concerned that well was not taking the water, like it should. And, at the time, Mr. Floyd said, well, when the water goes down, we can go out and take a look at it. But that, we put it on the list as a possible project.
Now, if the water management district, and, I'm sorry, DEP is where the money's coming from, right? So if they do that, what kind of permitting do we have? DEP issue a permit to be able to start this up? Or how?
Yes, you have to go through DEP to get permits for it. And
And they would approve the filtration system, they would
Yes.
approve all this,
Yeah.
the whole deal.
Yeah.
We don't need core permits, do we?
probably not. Now, there may be, the
It's not
district,
waters of the state or anything.
well, the district is looking, the water management district is looking at maybe down there in the West Farm area of planting some additional wetland vegetation down there as part of a mitigation project.
Yeah.
But really, that wouldn't get involved with the drainage well itself, but it would get involved with the filtration portion of it. If they decide they wanna put that money into the project and use that as part of the filtration, then that filtration part would be reviewed by the Corps, because that mitigation is for Corps work, and that's why they have that money. Other than that, the only thing, and part of this is that you can't degrade the wetlands, for instance. Like over here in the Burnett Low, we can't go in there and just drain the wetlands. You have to set a line that says, okay, and it has to have its own hydro period. And so after that, you know, there's some surplus there that causes flooding, but you can't take everything out of the wetlands. And so that line has to be established by the engineers too. But we wanted to, like I said, this is coming back to you for at least, this is the third time. But with Nestle's partnership, we think it has a very good chance of being funded, this coming year. And we wanted to bring this before the board before it goes to, the Water Management District Board. And because they like to know that the local government is behind the project.
Does the board need to vote to approve it, or what would it do?
I think it would be good to
Approve the
have approval.
application?
Yeah, approval of us submitting, because of course, you know, the further you get into it, you get funding, then there's contracts with DEP and everything else, and all that would have to come back before the board too. And it depends on how much they decide to split it out, that the county does. The money that we have in here for the county is really the in-kind services. You know, if you have to build the road or clear the road to get to the well locations and earth moving type things. It's not cash contributions. But that all would have to come back to the board for contract approvals with DEP and or the Water Management District. Depends. Sometimes they run it through the Water Management District. On the one with Lake City, I got them to run it straight from DEP to Columbia County and not have the district in the middle of it. But all that would have to come back for approval here. But what we'd be approving tonight is to submit for the proposed project for funding.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Okay.
Permission to address the board?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you. I just wanted to let you know that Nestle Waters has a real vested interest in this project. It's a critical project, and we're very pleased to have the opportunity work with the county and with the Water Management District to move this forward. I think it's a great opportunity to introduce up to 1.2 billion gallons a year back into the aquifer from stormwater collected within the city of Madison. And it's a long-term project because the treatment systems that Brian is talking about will require some maintenance over time. And we don't want to leave the county floundering on this. We are a member of this community. We want to be here for a long time, just like you. And we want to work with you to make sure that these systems are installed properly and maintained properly over time. So we're pleased to be able to offer our expertise and our financial assistance where possible to make sure that this is done properly.
Thank you very much. Any other discussion? Mr. Hodge?
I think Brian has answered most of my questions. Whenever I heard about the drainage well, I'm thinking about the old drainage wells where it just went straight into the ground. And what Brian's talking about, and the reason it was really concerning me was years ago, prior to Brian's association with the Water Management District, when we were having a flood problem at the time out around in our area, the road was going underwater, we had some houses being affected, and we were up at a meeting begging for Water Management to approve opening drainage wells, and they had them closed. And they said at the time that was just an absurd idea, the drainage wells were illegal, they couldn't open them because of pollution problems. And, you know, I know science has changed, and but that was my concern, was that we were looking at uncapping wells that years ago they said was just totally unacceptable. And we were begging for help to stop flooding, and they wouldn't approve it at all. And I would want to know, you know, why it's okay now, but it's not then. But then Brian I think has addressed most of what I was concerned about, what he's talking about. Yeah, hopefully the science is there to keep the water clean enough, put it back in there instead of what we used to get, what we all do. Right.
Thank you, Mr. Hodge.
Just a question, Brian, before we go. We talked briefly, about, possibility of a drainage well at an industrial park at Cruise Pond. Would that be part of this, or do you think it would be necessary to capture that water before it ever gets further downstream to the west water?
Well, we could look at that. You and I talked about it. The city does have a little piece over there, on the edge of the cruise pond.
I don't know if it'd be a large enough area to put a filtration system in, would it be, after looking at this, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think we ought to look at that, as part of the study. When we look at the wells and where is the best place to get that water in, put it in the aquifer. But that's good question. You know, we ought to look at that.
I think the more we can terminate it and put it back into ground before it terminates down at the west.
Well, the only thing that you might consider on that is if I move it too far upstream, my drainage basin is smaller.
Yeah.
So I put it down here, the drainage basin is larger, so I'm getting a larger quantity of water in that particular well. You know, instead of if I put the well up here, then I don't get as much water. And a big part of it is recharging the aquifer for the springs and the river and for people to use.
So much relief for flooding. Further upstream.
Yeah, but I think what he's saying is if you catch it up here, then it doesn't flood down here, and you're right. But the other offset is if you've got to invest the money in the well, you want it in the spot that you can gather the most water, because you're investing the money in that spot, and there's monitoring that you got to do, and so you kind of want to maximize that. But I think it's worth looking at to see.
You know, my concern too is if the aquifer is charged and we got the water we had 3 years ago, then it's not going to, or go into that filtration system, but has nowhere to push it down into, and then it's gonna overflow.
Yeah, I mean, you always have that potential, but this is another way to reduce flooding.
Right.
I would never say that this will solve the flooding. You know, you always have a potential that you could get more rain than the wells could take and overload them. And, I mean, that always exists. But this will certainly help, is a win-win situation. It can help in the flooding and it can help also recharge the aquifer.
Well, like now, you know, in a rice field, everything cycles. But, I guess water management district would be spearheading this legislation.
Yes. They take it to their board and they rank the projects and then they take it to DEP and try to get the funding from DEP.
Is one of the things they're gonna be looking at the normal level of the aquifer under there to make sure that the aquifer is actually low enough where it can take water, or are we comfortable that, yeah, the level's pretty low?
We're pretty comfortable that our aquifer can take the water. Now, you do get into some situations in Dixie and Lafayette County that the aquifer, there really isn't a confining unit, and it's right at the top of the ground, and if you drill a hole, there's the aquifer. It may drop 10 feet during the dry time, but there's really no place for the water to go. But here on the Cody Scarp of Live Oak, Lake City, Madison, Stark, there's a good separation between the aquifer and land surface. So there's pretty, once you put your water in, there's pretty good head on top of that to push it down into the aquifer.
Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay. Thank you, Brian. Okay, we're gonna move to number 2 of